The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. Do it now.
Honey, those raised beds you made last year worked out so good. I need a couple more. Do you think you can make me a couple more raised beds for our gardening this summer?
The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. Do it now.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Honey-Do List. As you may have heard, I have gotten my marching orders. My honey gave me a list to do, and the first thing on it is to make some more of these nice raised bed planting boxes for her garden. It's a beautiful spring day today, very early spring, and these are the raised beds that I made last year. They worked out very well. There's some benefits to making raised beds. One, of course, is because it's a raised bed, you're not bending over a lot when you're weeding. You can simply stand up, and you're not bending way over down to the ground. You can easily work on your garden from standing position, or a simple kneeling position. You're right at the level of the produce or whatever you're growing. These raised beds are 10 feet long, and they're about 2 feet wide. As you can see, the black flies are starting to come out, and that's not fun, but it's New England. What are you going to do? First thing I'm going to do is show you what we use to put these beds together. They're made with 2x8s. There's 2 of them on each side and 2 of them on the ends. And like I said, these are 10-foot 2x8s, and they're 2-foot sections on either end. And the reason we're using a 10-foot measurement is because a lot of materials that we're going to use to make this come in even 10-foot measures or 5-foot measures, which makes it much easier to work with when you're building these boxes. Let me show you some of the details of these boxes so you can get an idea of what we're going to be doing. It's a good weekend project for you, and the benefits are phenomenal. One of the benefits of using a raised bed is you don't get a lot of the pests that will bother your gardens because they're raised. And also it's much easier to put fertilizer and other organic type of material in the beds. There's just many benefits to having a raised bed. And so I'm going to show you some of the details right now. As you can see, our corners, when you're making a raised bed, as they age, the wood tends to swell and the weather takes a toll on it. One of the things you can do is to coat the wood with a protective. I do not recommend using any kind of pressure-treated wood when you're making a raised bed like this, because that could leach into your soil and cause some problems. What I do to treat this wood is I coat it with boiled linseed oil, which will work very well to protect the wood, and it doesn't leach into your soil or cause any problems like that. You'll notice on the corners, I have these L-shaped brackets on there to hold the sides together. When you fill this bed with sand or with soil, it tends to want to bulge out at the corners. And so you have to reinforce them, because if you just simply spike some screws or nails through the ends, over time they'll weaken, this will pull apart, and all your nice loam and treated soil will spill out. So it's a good idea to have these L brackets in addition to putting some screws through, and these will help hold the beds together over many, many years. And that's some of the details of putting these together. I'll show you more as we get into the project.
The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list.
Okay, as you can see, I'm getting my lumber ready. This is just a standard 2x8 piece of lumber, and they're 10 foot long, as I mentioned. We're building 2 of those boxes that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to have to put some preservative over this wood, boiled linseed oil, to protect the wood so it doesn't rot and gives it more of a life, over the years outside in the harsh New England weather. I've got to do 8 of these, plus the ends. So I have a lot of linseed oil coating to do. What I'll do is I'll put it on liberally on both sides, flipping them over. Make sure they dry well before I start building the boxes. It might take a good 4 to 8 hours to dry, depending on the sun. Also, when you're working with lumber, it's a good idea to use gloves, especially rough lumber. You can pick up slivers very easily, and you don't want to pick up slivers. They're a pain. I think I got everything we need to start here. You want to pick a nice sunny day, or partly sunny, as it sometimes is here in New England, to do this project. As you can see, I'm using boiled linseed oil. As you can see, boiled linseed oil. What this is it's a classic wood finish. It's a natural protectant, and it's produced from the seed of the flax plant. And it dries faster, and it's a great protectant, natural protectant. So what I'm going to do, pour some of this in a bucket. Oh, it looks beautiful. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is simply brush this on very liberally and coat all this wood. Now, I have 10-foot sections right here that I'm going to do. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do all our wood so that it's nice, protected, and our planting boxes will last a long time, years and years. Well, I'm just about done coating this wood. I'm going to let it dry now. But now, while the wood is drying, I have to move over to where we're going to be putting these boxes. And I have to move some fencing out of the way, so I'll show you that. Okay, as you can see, our lumber that we coated with boiled linseed oil is now completely dry. It's been several days since I coated them, and the lumber is nice and dry, not sticky on the hands, which is an important thing, and the important part is it's all protected now so that the weather won't get at the wood once we make our boxes. So our first step is to make our measurements and cut our rough lumber. Now, if you remember when we measured the boxes earlier, they're 10 feet long and they're a little over 2 feet wide. So what I want to do is cut the 2x8s into 23-inch. I need two 23-inch pieces for each section of the box. There's 2 sections of the boxes that stack on top of each other, and then there's going to be 2 boxes. So I have to make basically 4 of those frames. So I'm going to cut the 23-inch pieces, and I'm going to start by doing that. I'm going to measure and get those cut. Okay, first thing we're going to do is check the ends. I'm going to make sure the ends are square. Sometimes when they come from the lumber yard, they're not exactly square, and this one looks pretty good. So I'm going to measure down exactly 23 inches. Let's see, 23 inches right there, and put my square on it and draw a nice straight line right across the board, and this is going to be where I'm going to cut. Now I'm going to use a regular circular saw to cut this. Now, there's one thing you should know about. Number one is it's good to wear eye protection. Can never be too careful using power tools. Eye protection is very important. And also, another thing that people sometimes tend to forget, make sure that your blade is as sharp as possible. As a wise man once said, a dull tool is the wrong tool. So make sure your blades are nice and sharp. That way it help cut down on kickback from the saws, and it'll help you out. It's also a good idea to wear some hearing protection when using power tools. You know, believe me when I tell you how important it is to wear hearing protection. I've learned the hard way over the years, and I'm paying the price right now, but I always use hearing protection when I'm using power tools now. See? Can't hear a thing. Not a thing. Even if the honey starts screaming at me to do something else, I can't hear her. I'm all set. So let's get cutting. I have to cut 8 of these small 23-inch sections, so we're going to start working on it right now. Okay, I've got my my short pieces already cut, the short 23-inch pieces. They're ready to go. I'm going to start assembling this frame, and we'll start tacking it together. Basically, what I want to do is make sure the best side is on the edge, is facing up, and the lousy sides are facing inside the box, so that that looks pretty good the way it is. So what I'm going to do is take one of our end pieces and put it in place, right like this. Now it's a good idea when you're building any kind of a box or anything like that, is to make sure your angles and your perpendiculars are indeed straight. And the best way to do that is to use a framing square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the framing square, make sure everything is straight. I got a 90 degree there, I got a 90 degree here. When everything is straight, I'm going to take 2 3-inch outdoor deck type screws and screw from the end into this end piece. And then I'll show you later on how we're going to beef up those end pieces with some metal brackets. So why don't we work on that? Okay, now let's see. We want to make sure that we have everything square. This can actually come out a little bit more. And I'm going to take a 3-inch deck screw, and we're going to drill right in from the end into our crosspiece. There we go. It's probably a good idea to put 3 screws into each end, at least for now, in order to hold everything together. What would we have done without these power tools and screwdrivers? And if we had to do this by hand, we'd be here forever. Again, it's a good idea to double check and triple check your square. It's going to become very important later on as the project gets further down to make sure that everything is square. Once things are square, it'll be much easier to assemble the box if everything is square. If it's out of square, you're going to have a crooked box, which is not good. So, It looks pretty square to me. Here we go, number 2. I hope you don't mind this music that we play behind us here as we're working. Gets rid of all the dull spots. Okay, now I'm gonna repeat the procedure down the other end. Oh, gotta take one of these with me. Here we go. Another way to check if something's square or not is to take a tape measure and measure corner to corner. See if you have the same measurements. And if you do, then you know you're perfectly square. Let me see what I have here. Here I have 122 and a quarter one way, and let's see, the other way is 122 and 3/4. So I have to juxtapose this a little bit to make sure it's square. So what I will do is simply go like this. A little bit of hammer action here might help. Okay, I think we have it square now. I'm going to put a couple of nails in this end. One. Ow. You know, they make these nails, they're very sharp. And you go to get them in the box, and some of them are sticking up like this, some are down like this. Now, they stab into your fingers. Another thing to remember is, if the nail is facing this way, it goes in that wall. If it's facing this way, it goes in that wall. Here we go. Like I said, we're going to reinforce these corners with some brackets later on, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Okay, what I got to do next is I've got to put one more 23-incher in the middle. This prevents the box from splitting open. I forgot to mention that to you earlier, that we have to cut an extra 2 23-inch supports to go across the middle section. So let me get that right now. Okay, I'm putting this center piece in, and I had to cheat it a little bit off the center of the whole bed because there was a knot hole in the wood, and I wanted to cover that knot hole with the centerpiece so that the loam and the soil doesn't leak out. So I cheated it over a little bit. It won't really make a difference, as you will see as we go on. This will just prevent the box from popping open when the soil is put in. Okay, so that is procedure. Now I have to build one more exactly like this to stack on top. And then I got to build 2 more exactly like this for the second planter box. So instead of boring you with all that, I'm going to go ahead and make the other ones. And then when we're ready to assemble the whole thing, I'll show you what happens next. Okay, there we go. What we have done, we've just built 4 of these frames. They're completed, they're done. Now, as you know, we're making 2 beds. Try to follow me here. And they're going to be 16 inches tall, each bed. These are 2x8s, so these are 8 inches tall. So what we want to do is stack 2 of these frames together and screw them together to have one bed. And we're making 2 of those, okay? So what we're going to do, instead of screwing the 2 frames together right now, we're going to wait until we move them into place, and then we'll screw the top frame to the bottom frame. Before we do that, we got to do some more work on these frames. What we have to do is put the corner brackets on, like I showed you earlier. We had some corner brackets in the corners, and you can come in closer, you know. Come right in, come on in, that's it. I have my secret camera person working here. They're a little drunk, but they're okay. Now, we're gonna put some corner brackets here. Now, what I could have done, I could have bought corner brackets, but I need 3, 6, 12, I need a lot of them. And they're about $3, almost $4 a piece for 1 corner bracket. So being the cheap person that I am, I said there's got to be a cheaper way to put corner brackets on. So I purchased these, which are galvanized for outdoor. They're strong. And what I'm going to do is cut these into thirds and bend them and screw those in, and they'll act the same way as the corner brackets, and they're much cheaper. I can get 3 brackets out of this $1.50 piece of metal. So what I do is I will basically grab some of these metal shears and approximately just cut it right in half. Yeah, you got to use a little bit of elbow grease, but when you're done, you have a bracket. Now all I got to do is bend it in a 90-degree, like so. Get my screw gun, get a screw. Now I'm using 1-inch galvanized here for this. I'm going to put it in the corner and screw it right in. And much, much cheaper alternative than paying whatever it was for corner brackets. Sometimes you have to use a little bit of ingenuity and common sense. Take you a long ways, and it's pretty good on the pocketbook also. So I'm going to continue and put the corner brackets on this, just the way I showed you. And then I'll show you how we prepare the bottom of the bed, which is going to have some screen on it to prevent just to give it some strength and to prevent weeds from coming up. It stops the moles too from coming up, my honey said. So, and also we're going to put some weed block material on top of that screen that'll help prevent the weeds from coming up. Like I said before, now we're going to start with the screen process. So what happens is we have screen like this, and this screen is measured at about 2 feet. And so this is, you know, it's the type of screen that you'd use to make a rabbit hutch or something like that. They're 1/2-inch square mesh, and it's good to put this on the bottom. It keeps any burrowing creatures like moles or whatever from coming up into your beds from below, mice, whatever. So it's good to put this on here. So what you basically do is you roll it out and you staple it to the bottom of your bed. Now these particular rolls that I bought are 5 feet long, I believe, and it takes a little bit of muscle power to get these spread out. But once you do, and it might be a good idea to put some gloves on, which I don't have on, so you don't get picked by the end of the mesh. Okay, now that we have all the wire mesh on, we can progress to the next step, which is the material, the anti-weed blockage material. And we have some right here. And this is going to go right over the mesh. So, in fact, what I'm going to do is I might be able to roll it in half, but I'm not sure. I think I'm going to have to trim it because I don't think there's enough to roll it. So if you come down this side, what we will do, we'll just tack it temporarily right here with our staple gun. Get our scissors. And carry on like this. You want to make sure that you cover the whole bottom screen area. And this is going to prevent the weeds from, of course, this part of the bed will be flipped upside down, and this will be against the ground, against the area where you're going to place the bed. So we'll continue putting this on, and we only have to do this, remember, to 2 of the frames. We're going to do this to the 2 bottoms of the frames, and then we'll put the 2 top part of the frames, attach them on top of the frames, the bottom frames. So we're going to repeat this process to 2 frames, then we'll show you how to prepare the bed where they're going to go and how to finish up this job. Then we'll throw some loam in them, and we're ready to plant. So stay tuned. So I'm good now. But anyway, let's get moving on these. First thing we're going to do is position them. Now, as you can see, these are the part with the weed blocker on it. I'm going to flip this over, and you'll see what I mean. This is going to go on first, like so. As you can see, that goes down first. And this is the bottom part. And that's not too bad. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to flip this one over. Position it roughly where I want it. Straighten it out. Pardon my backside. As you can see, it's not too bad. I'm going to make a few other adjustments here. Okay, this way we have a path down the middle. I'm going to show you how we make these a raised bed. Now remember, we actually built 4 of these frames. So the first thing we're going to do is put one of these frames on top of the other. Like so. Line it up. Now all we have to do to tie these together is to toenail some screws down, and I'll show you how we do that. Line these up, and I'm going to toenail, directly from the top down into the bottom. I'm trying to go at a pretty steep toenail angle so it doesn't go through on the inside. That's it. I'm going to do all that around, and that's going to join the upper part to the lower part. I'm going to do that for both of these boxes. So give me some loam where the earthworms roam and the seeds growing every day. Okay, as you can see, this is what the planting boxes look like. The raised beds, when they're all done, all filled with nice fresh loam, ready for planting. And this job is now completed. We finished another job.
No.
So, wait a minute.
You're not finished yet. You gotta plant the plants.
Oh, now I've got to plant the plants. That'll be on a future edition of Honey-Do List. So keep watching.
The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. The honey-do list, the honey-do list, the honey-do list. Do it now.